All right, we are live with Noah Prince, formerly of Strata Protocol, but now at Helium Foundation. Noah, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, psyched to have you on. So let's see. On Twitter, you are what is it? Redacted Noah or Noah Redacted? I think
Yep.
it's Redacted Noah. What's
Redacted
the
Noah.
redaction all about?
Oh, that's just me copying my brother. So when I originally came to Solana, I kind of followed my brother here, and
Okay,
his Twitter tag was redacted_J.
okay,
Now somebody, I don't know who, stole redacted_N, so I had to do redacted Noah.
okay. So there's a
But
so you're
it was
redacted
mostly
for
just a lack
reasons.
of yeah,
Yeah.
just lack of creativity. That's the redaction.
Okay. Fair. Fair. I was reading through some of the stuff you've been talking about. You've been on making some comments on this recent Metaplex deal, and one thing that you said stuck out to me that would be appropriate for Helium is that code is a living, breathing thing that needs oversight. So, I mean, you're kind of the one making the big moves for moving Helium from the old blockchain to Solana. What's the thing you're kind of most going to breathe life into as we keep going forward? So, transition is done. What are you kind of looking forward to next?
I mean, right now we're kind of in a stage of like, you know, we need to make the user experience better across pretty much every facet, right? Like, I want to make the
Okay.
claiming experience better. I want to make the wallet experience better. I want to make it easier for people to go and build on top of the protocol. And equally, what we've built here isn't just useful for Helium, it's generally useful for DePIN on Solana, right? So, really, if we put some more work into this, we can make a DePIN framework so that anybody can go and much more easily spin things up. Um,
Yeah,
so there's
that's pretty
just
rad.
yeah, there's a lot of directions we can go with it, but right now I'm focused on our community and what's going to make things life easier for them first. Um, and then
Right.
we can go to making these really cool frameworks for DePIN in general, which is a good investment for Helium because it means other DePIN communities are going to be kind of giving back to the protocol that we work on. So I talk about it being a living, breathing thing. The more people we can bring into it, probably the better.
The better it's going to be. Oh, love that. I hadn't realized it was going to be kind of the foresight was going into it to say, hey, this is going to be useful across all deepins, not just Helium. So that's pretty rad. Maybe you can explain something else to me. We're just talking to Austin Federa about Fire Dancer, and the takeaway I
Oh
got
boy.
was that Fire Dancer is some like geeky shit that makes things 100 times faster. Um, I'm pretty sure that's right. What are you excited about, and are there any corrections to that that I should take away?
So I actually come from like the job I had before I was working on Solana was at like a high speed trading company. So I
Okay.
know the type of shit that they get up to. I was in data infrastructure, so I didn't do it, but they
Yep.
literally like use hardware acceleration. Like they have FPGAs that are going and like doing things in between Ethernet frames. Like these people are insane in the lengths that they'll go to
Okay. And
optimize things.
FPGA is like field programmable gated array or something like that. It's like some geeky nerd
Yeah,
term,
it's like
but
a
so
thing
they're
where
just making
it
things way faster.
yeah, it can basically like rewire itself, but it's basically hardware. So yeah, that is to say, like, I mean, they're not going to be using FPGAs for this for Fire Dancer, but the level of thought and expertise that is going into this thing is the likes of which I don't think many people in the community understand because you just like haven't seen it. But like
Hmm.
it's going to be amazing. And I expect massive,
Okay.
massive performance improvements and throughput improvements, and that leads to cheaper costs, more people being able to be on chain, and honestly, bigger unlocks for the people that are building on this chain. Also, client diversity is really good. You can kind of see this
Okay.
in ETH when ETH has problems. You might have one of the clients mess up, but if you have three other clients, they kind of carry the weight. Right now, Solana only has one client. With this, they'll have two, which makes us a little bit more safe in the case that one of them trips and falls on its face. Right, like it's all software.
Right.
We're
Which can
human.
happen. I mean, it's just
Yeah, like
yeah.
we're gonna have bugs. Um, Much less
So
likely to implement the same
is
bug
there
twice.
yeah, that's always a great hope, right? Solana's already pretty fast. That's kind of the first thing that I think people notice when they come to it, and I think most of Helium noticed that was it's already pretty fast. Like, is going 100 times faster going to make any difference? And is
Well,
there like a specific advantage Helium can get out of Fire Dancer or just going fast in general?
it won't. So I don't think it will reduce block times, right? So like The
Okay.
amount of time it takes for your transaction to go through probably won't change. But
Okay.
the thing is, and like Solana doesn't have scaling problems right now. Like it's more than able to handle the amount of transactions that you're putting through it. This is more like a really long term play. Like if we get crypto to be the size of even like Visa, where it's trying to do, I think Visa does like 60,000 transactions per second. You need Fire Dancer. Otherwise, like you're going to be trying to claim your Helium rewards, but there are 100 other 1,000 credit card style transactions coming through, and now you got to wait in line, right? So it is important long term to have something that can scale with the world.
Got it. So nothing's going to come down the pipe in the next month or two. We're like, oh my god, this is directly from Fire Dancer. But the next year or two, we'll see something like, oh, this had to be done a year ago in order to get this thing now.
Yeah, and you'll
Okay.
see, statistics that, people love to publish transactions per second statistics and things like that. But, you know, yeah, I don't think there's anything that like, for the DePIN community here, right? Like there's nothing that like a month from now you're going to be like, "Wow, this is amazing for me." Like
Okay. Okay.
that's
I
going
can
to come
safely.
from Helium Foundation team building stuff and the community building stuff, which Jesus, the community has been going crazy. It's been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all trying to catch up and get up to speed. So one thing that I've noticed, everything used to be on chain back in the kind of old days, and then that bogged everything down. So we went to getting a lot of the stuff off chain to kind of stagger through to get to the point where we are now, where we're able to get on to Solana. Now that we're there, what is it? What does the roadmap look like for Helium moving off oracles and back into smart contracts? I'm pretty sure you're psyched on this.
Yeah, so we've already put a good amount of stuff into the smart contract. So like the entirety of basically like the HIP 51 flow exists on chain, like how you delegate VHNT to subDAOs, how the tokens flow into the subDAOs, how they flow out of the subDAOs, like all of that like subDAO infrastructure is all on Solana. It's like a circulatory system with a beating heart. It runs once a day. Um, and it's great because it's low volume, right? Um, to be honest, the rest of the stuff, I think we have to find a way to decentralize it further. But
Mhm.
I actually don't think that it makes sense to put all of it on chain. So I come from a data infra background. My background is in like how do we scale things.
Yep.
Blockchains are fundamentally they don't scale horizontally. I can't just add more servers to add more throughput.
Okay.
So if you're trying to do something that is really really number crunchy times millions and millions and millions of hotspots, as Helium found out the hard way, like that just isn't going to scale. Now, barring some, super genius coming up with a new consensus mechanism that makes it, possible to do, 1 million transactions per second, sure, maybe. But now I think we need to focus on decentralizing in the way we can, which is, having these oracles become more decentralized, having more people run the oracles, having publicly verifiable data, um, getting the things that are routing all of the packets, decentralizing that is going to be an interesting challenge. In other words, you can decentralize without it having to be on a blockchain. um,
Mm.
and that's kind of where we're going to be going with it, at least until some gigabrain figures out how to get 1 million TPS through a blockchain.
Right. Oh, that's good to kind of separate out those two things. Is that the blockchain and decentralization are two different things, and can be used for two different purposes. Cool. Let's see. You talked a little bit about improving kind of the user experience. I know the app, Max is always banging on me about this. The app doesn't work well for folks who have a ton of hotspots. I think he's got a couple hundred or more than a couple hundred. Is there like fixes on the horizon when you see the roadmap? Like, hey, this is what we're going to fix first, second, third, ninth. What are you excited about?
Yeah, I mean, claims are certainly at the top of the list. So for one, there are a few companies that are building bulk claims. I don't know if as foundation I'm supposed to call out specific companies, picking favorites, but people are working on that. We're also working on some bulk claiming infrastructure that's purpose built for people who have a lot of hotspots.
Yep.
The app is just not good if you have like 600 hotspots. Um, and so we're writing basically a Rust command line tool that can basically try to shotgun these things way faster because it can send it directly to Solana's TPU. Um,
Okay.
and then people can use that CLI, or services that are offering kind of fleet management services for hotspots can use that in the background. It'll be a little bit more efficient. I mean, you're kind of limited with the compute capacity of a of a cell phone, and also like if you're on like a very slow network, it's going to have trouble submitting a bunch of them. So like the most recent app update, we pushed a fix, and I hope it's working. That means it will eventually work, right? Like it's batching them into 50 at a time, and it's basically saving its progress. So if you make it through 50 and then it fails, those 50 are done and you don't have to next time.
Yep.
So like if you leave it on the claiming screen for long enough and you keep doing it, eventually it will work. Also, you have to make sure you have
But
enough
it's not
soul.
it's not easy yet.
Not easy
Yeah.
yet, and issues with people not having enough soul. The UX around, we tried in this most recent update to have UX that indicates when you don't have enough soul, but it's still not quite right
Mm.
for claims. And Solana has kind of a nasty habit of when you have enough soul, sometimes it just like fails quietly by hanging. Because it's like you don't even
Hmm.
have enough soul for me to do you the justice of sending this transaction. So yeah, if you're having trouble
Yeah.
with claims,
There's
I
got to be
definitely
something in there.
recommend adding soul.
That's the first step. I know you've been pretty vocal about saying like, hey, we've got to make sure that people understand what we're doing as we're building it, and not just build something that we think is perfect in private and then release it to the public all at once. How do you guys, or how do you felt like you guys did with that with the Solana transition? Do you think there was a good blend of being kind of public about it and also just getting heads down and getting the work done?
Yeah, I really like Helium's improvement proposal process, just because
Hmm.
we end up getting like a Discord group where people have a lot of feedback, which has helped
Yeah.
shape things. As far as like technical decisions, I tried to do technical threads on Twitter occasionally on what's going on, but um,
Yep.
I feel like the community cares less about how the bread is made. They just want to see the bread. Um, but for technical decisions, I wanted to make sure we included the community on those, and that's kind of why we had that like Solana, the secondary Solana hip that was like, okay, we as often happens with these, because they're kind of like a legal document, you were too vague and you missed definitions. And I was like, I don't want us to make assumptions based off of things that weren't filled in the hips and then just roll with those, right? Which is why we made that
Yep.
Solana hip, where I was like, all right, we're going to need a multi-sig, we're going to need this, we're going to need that. Like, are you guys okay with this? um but it's definitely harder with the migration, because we were just sprinting at the speed of light. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we probably dropped the ball in communication in a number of ways, and it's hopefully we improve on
Yeah.
that
It's a
going
big,
forward.
complex thing, and you don't know what you don't know. So I think there's a bunch of community members out there picking up the pieces, and it seems like for the most part we got through it not unscathed, but remarkably less scathed than I thought we would be. So good job.
Yeah, there were some there were some pretty deep pits that we could have fallen down that were unrecoverable, and we luckily only hit the landmines that weren't fatal. But
Yeah,
I still feel pretty bad about the ones that we hit. So
sure. Let's finish this up. Last couple minutes. Let's kind of talk about what Solana enables for Helium. Let's do kind of three things. What does it enable kind of today, maybe 3 months from now, and then maybe next year? So short, midterm, long term.
oh man, that's a good question. Um, so short term, obviously, like things are way faster than they were on the old chain. And you're while it's annoying to have a third token in the mix with Sol and like having to figure out having enough of that, it is also a lot cheaper. So that's kind of what it enables. But obviously, right now we're kind of in this intermediary state where the old chain had what, like 3 years of people building utilities and stuff for visibility. Um, and so, I'd say like the landscape around us is very foggy right now. It's very hard to figure out like, how many rewards should I have gotten, like that kind of transparency.
Sure.
But with the off-chain proof of coverage and off-chain rewards calculations, there's actually a lot more data available now than there was before. And so I would expect in kind of the next 3 months that not only is this fog going to lift, but you're going to be able to see further even than you could on the old chain.
Oh,
Um,
very cool. Okay,
and
cool.
then long term, I think we're very interested in kind of fully decentralizing this thing, leaning more into governance. And kind of honestly, I'm very excited to see what the sub DAOs do. Like now that we actually have sub DAOs, we're about to have the first sub DAO votes. they can have their own voice. They can move in their own directions. And I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of change there and a bunch of new smart contracts. I'm excited. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's always super cool to see where these things go. The whole thing is so new and big and crazy that it's really exciting to be along for the ride. So, dude, thanks a ton for coming on. Thanks for giving us your time. I know you're super busy. Got to get back to actually fixing things and not just talking to folks. Would love to have you back on when you got kind of the next update as far as like, hey, here's what we're doing that I'm super pumped on.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Ciao, ciao.